In the winter of 1692, Salem Village sat frozen beneath heavy snow, surrounded by dark forests that seemed to stretch endlessly into the unknown. The settlement was small, deeply religious, and isolated from the larger world. Life there was ruled by strict Puritan beliefs, where every joy was measured, every desire was suspect, and every hardship was seen as a test from God. The devil was not a metaphor to these people. He was real. He walked among them. And Salem believed it was their sacred duty to expose him. Fear already lived in the village long before the trials began. Fear of illness, fear of starvation, fear of Native American attacks along the frontier, fear of God's punishment. Salem was a community divided by grudges and jealousy. Families fought over land boundaries. Old arguments about church leadership still burned quietly beneath polite smiles. Wealthier families looked down on poorer ones. Those who lived closer to Salem town resented those who farmed the rough outskirts of the village. Every sermon reminded them that Satan thrived in weak communities, waiting for division to open the door. That door was already cracked. The spark came from inside the home of Reverend Samuel Parris. Parris was not a loved man. He demanded obedience, higher pay, and absolute control over his congregation. Many in Salem disliked him, but few dared to challenge him openly. His house was tense, filled with rigid discipline and constant talk of sin. One night, his 9-year-old daughter Betty and 11-year-old niece Abigail Williams began to behave in ways no one could explain. They screamed suddenly, without warning. They hid beneath furniture. They claimed sharp pain stabbed their skin, as if needles were being pushed into them by unseen hands. Sometimes they froze in place, unable to speak. Other times they thrashed violently, their bodies bending in unnatural ways. At first, the family believed it was childish misbehavior. Then it continued. Night after night, the screams grew louder. The fits grew worse. The house filled with fear. A doctor was called. He examined the girls carefully, searching for fever, illness, or injury. He found nothing. No physical cause. And in a deeply religious town, when science failed, the supernatural took its place. The doctor offered a terrifying conclusion. The children were under an evil hand. The word spread quietly at first, whispered during prayers and exchanged between neighbors. But whispers in Salem had power. Soon others were watching the girls closely, studying every twitch and scream, interpreting each movement as proof that something dark had entered the village. More girls began to suffer similar fits, and Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, Mary Walcott, and others joined Betty and Abigail. They screamed together. They convulsed together. They cried out that invisible figures clawed at them, whispered to them, threatened them. When asked who was responsible, they hesitated. Then they began to accuse. The first names they spoke were predictable. Tituba, an enslaved woman in the Parris household, originally from the Caribbean. Sarah Good, a poor beggar who wandered the village, often muttering angrily when denied charity. Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who had scandalized the community by remarrying and failing to attend church regularly. They were outsiders. They were powerless. They were different. When confronted, Sarah Good denied everything. Sarah Osborne protested her innocence weekly from her sickbed. Tituba was questioned harshly, threatened, and beaten until terror broke her resistance. When Tituba finally confessed, Salem leaned forward and listened. She spoke of dark animals that followed her, of flying through the night, of signing a book belonging to the devil. She claimed other women were involved, that witches gathered in secret, plotting the destruction of Salem. Her confession fed the town's worst fears. If witches were real, then Satan truly was among them. From that moment, the accusations exploded. Children accused adults. Servants accused masters. Neighbors accused neighbors. Long-standing feuds found new language through witchcraft. If someone owned land another wanted, they were suddenly suspicious. If someone spoke sharply, questioned authority, or lived alone, they became dangerous. Fear rewrote reality. The colonial court established a special tribunal to handle the growing number of cases. Judges believed they were chosen by God to cleanse Salem. They saw doubt as weakness and mercy as sin. The most dangerous tool they accepted was something called spectral evidence. If an accuser claimed that the spirit or ghost of the accused appeared to them in a dream or vision and harmed them, the court treated it as proof. There was no way to disprove such a claim. How could someone defend themselves against something that happened in another person's mind? Logic collapsed. Courtrooms became theaters of hysteria. The accused stood in chains while the girls screamed, pointed, collapsed, and claimed invisible attacks. Judges watched these performances as divine confirmation. If the accused denied the charges, the court believed Satan was hardening their hearts. If they confessed, the court believed God was saving them. Confession became the only path to life. Many confessed falsely, admitting to witchcraft just to avoid execution. They named others, spreading the accusations further, widening the net of terror. Each confession strengthened the belief that Salem was infested with evil. Jails overflowed. Men, women, and children were imprisoned together in filthy conditions. Some were chained to walls for months. Disease spread easily. Food was scarce. Families were forced to pay for the shackles that restrained their loved ones. One accusation shocked the village. Rebecca Nurse. She was elderly, kind, deeply religious, and widely respected. She had raised a large family and lived a quiet, moral life. When her name was spoken in court, many people gasped. This was a woman known for prayer, not sin. Dozens of villagers signed petitions defending her character. Witnesses spoke of her kindness and devotion to God. But the girls screamed. They claimed her spirit tormented them. They collapsed on the floor, clutching their throats, accusing her of trying to kill them from across the room. The jury hesitated, then declared her not guilty. For a brief moment, reason returned to Salem. But the accusers erupted in outrage. The judges pressured the jury to reconsider. Rebecca, hard of hearing and confused, failed to respond clearly to a question. Her silence was twisted into guilt. The verdict was reversed. Guilty. Rebecca Nurse was sentenced to death. As she was led away, she prayed, not for herself, but for the souls of her accusers. The hangings continued. Men and women were taken to Gallows Hill, where ropes waited beneath the open sky. Ministers prayed. Crowds gathered. Some wept. Others believed justice was being done. One man refused to play the court's game. Giles Corey. He was elderly, stubborn, and deeply aware of the law. He knew that if he was convicted, his land would be seized by the government. So he refused to plead at all. The court responded with a brutal punishment known as pressing. Giles Corey was stripped naked and laid on the ground. A wooden board was placed on his chest. Heavy stones were stacked on top, one by one. After each stone, he was asked to enter a plea. He refused. As his body was crushed, he spoke only 2 words: more weight. He died in agony, preserving his family's inheritance through his silence. By the height of the trials, Salem had lost control. Accusations reached into powerful families. Even the governor's wife was rumored to be at risk. Ministers outside Salem began to speak out, warning that the trials were driven by hysteria, not justice. Doubt finally broke through fear. The governor dissolved the special court. Spectral evidence was banned. New trials resulted in acquittals. Prisoners were released slowly, quietly, as if the town hoped no one would remember what had happened. But memory does not fade so easily. 19 people were hanged. 1 was pressed to death. Several died in prison. Hundreds were accused. Years later, judges admitted guilt. Public apologies were made. Financial compensation was given to victims' families. Accusers recanted, claiming confusion, pressure, or deception. Salem tried to heal, but the scars remained. The Salem Witch Trials became a symbol of how fear can destroy reason, how belief, when twisted, can justify cruelty, how ordinary people can commit horrors when convinced they are righteous. There were no witches in Salem. There was fear. There was power. There was paranoia. And when fear was given authority, it demanded blood. That is why the Salem Witch Trials still haunt history, because the true terror was never magic. It was human nature, unleashed.